show you how to eat the rabbit hole.
Cambridge, December 3rd, 2016. I'm here to see Cassie J's The Red Pill documentary, which is about kind of the feminist versus the MRAs debate. Not necessarily the anti-SJWs, like me, but the MRAs, the men's rights advocates.
Never before has there been a gathering of this magnitude to support men's and boys' issues.
Well, you're lazy, you're scary, you must be a racist, you must be a misogynist.
It's a gathering of women haters.
And this is the way people who don't want men to talk about issues try to shut us up.
Because we've been focusing our binoculars on the issue of discrimination against women.
I'll never forget this. He said, if she starts hitting you again, you better get out of there fast, because if she just breaks a fingernail trying to hit you, we'll arrest you.
It was a 15-year-old boy, it was a 35-year-old woman, and she was able to collect child support from this boy that she raped.
False accusations, men's health issues, homelessness, the rates and statistics that we don't hear about.
93% of workplace fatalities are men. 4 of 5 suicides are men.
Men are conscious that our society doesn't want to hear their pain.
We value female life more than we value male life.
All these forms of discrimination are happening in a society that doesn't even allow us to talk about them.
I think I agree with everything you said, but there's still some kind of unsettling doubt, and I don't know where that's coming from.
Sometimes I think the MRAs are just duping me.
So I realized, okay, I need to bring some feminists into the mix to make sure that we have that side.
Women are still oppressed.
Certainly, if anybody can understand that, it's feminists.
I need feminism.
Men have always had rights.
Men are advantaged.
All I had to do, I had a simple choice. I could just say, yes, you're right. Men are the enemy. But I couldn't.
We have a big hole in the area of compassion for boys and men.
This is what men's rights look like! This is what men's rights look like!
It's commonplace and it's everywhere, and the more you start to become conscious of it, the more you realize that it's there.
I don't lack sympathy for any of this.
My worst fears for seeing this film is, I mean, I know there's going to be feminists in the audience, so feminists are in the majority right now. I'll be glad that some of the audience there watching the film will be there because they're not feminists. I'll be glad for that. My worst fear is that a protest will start. I didn't think it was going to be possible that there'd be a protest in the Cambridge showing like there was in Canada, which is completely don't even go there. Completely overwhelmed right now by the regressive left. I'm kind of ashamed to be half Canadian right now. I've always wanted to go back to Canada, but now I'm kind of really iffy on it because of just how much crap the government and stuff are taking on. Beep. But anyway, getting off the point, I didn't think there'd be protests at first at this screening. I haven't seen it yet. It's at 7:30, and there might be. And I'm just worried that the crazies might try something. You know, yell at people or try and beat someone up or something. Hopefully not. Hopefully they won't ruin the screening or cancel it. Should be interesting. I thought Cassie J was going to be there because it said Q&A after the film. I don't understand how they can have a Q&A without the filmmakers there. Maybe some other members of her filmmaking crew are there. But I had a feeling it was just her personal documentary. Interested to see what this Q&A will be, if someone's being given permission to speak on her behalf or something. But I'm there to show my support, basically, because places like Ottawa and Melbourne, they've shut this film down. The SJWs have protested against it manically and got it shut down. And I don't want that to happen because these thoughts need to be shared. free speech for the win. So hopefully I tell you what the film was like and the experience of going to it later on. Hey, I just got back from the screening in Cambridge of Cassie J's The Red Pill movie, and overall success. There wasn't any protest. I'm surprised the organiser guy from, I think it's called Families for Fathers or Families Need Fathers, that organised the event, thought that there was going to be a protest too. So I wasn't alone in thinking that, but there wasn't. Probably due to there was quite a small amount of people who came to the showing, unfortunately. And he asked around, and there were no feminists in the room. They wanted to be there, and they came there for reasons. Mainly focused on the fathership side of things. So it was in a small room, just your standard kind of town community hall type thing that's used for local events. And as a result, it didn't have the super facilities to show the film. It was great that they actually got a chance to show the film, but they really didn't have the facilities for it. I think the volume was really low, so people had to kind of strain to hear from a laptop and projector setup. I would say that the screen that they showed it on, I'm sure someone in that room probably owned a widescreen TV at home that was bigger than that screen. So, I mean, it's a shame. I mean, it's so unmainstream that it wouldn't get shown in cinemas. But it really deserves... If you're going to organise a showing, I know one of the guys in the room was trying to organise a showing for Norwich, I think. Make sure you get a good sound system, like a loud volume sound system and a bigger screen to show it on, because it deserves that extra volume boost. So they aired the film. The film itself didn't go into the depth that I thought it would. I'm really glad that they got an interview of Karen Strawn in there from the Honey Badgers. Karen Strawn is just one of the great speakers of the MRAs, and coming from a standpoint of the anti-SJWs, I would say they could have got Sargon of Akkad in there as well. But I just learned that Sargon did a live stream talking to Cassie J, which I'm going to watch when I get back. Also, you should check out Cassie J talking about a film on the Rubin Report with Dave Rubin. He is a great advocate of freedom of speech and letting people disagree with each other in conversation. So he's a great one to watch as well. If you were in that room watching the film with me today, check those channels out. The film itself was good. It went way more into kind of fathership problems that I didn't expect. But that is a big problem, is like custody of children and divorce settlements and things often come out in favour of the woman rather than the man, and so that needs to be addressed as an equality thing. So they interviewed the Honey Badgers, which was great. They interviewed the professor guy, can't remember his name, I really should remember his name, the guy who spoke about men and boys issues at a lecture in Toronto, I believe, and that was the same lecture. I watched the lecture the entire way through, and that was the same lecture where there are other video clips of loads of really angry feminists gathering outside, screaming at the police who are sent to kind of not let people cause trouble outside the lecture. Basically, they were screaming, "This is what men's rights look like." And when you see the actual lecture and compared with what all these protesters are shouting at, you know, misogyny and really sexist or whatever, when you actually watch the lecture, it's nothing like that. And the guy proclaims, you know, he is a feminist anyway, or he was a feminist and still fights for women's rights now. So it's really strange that they were protesting on that. They show good clips of that. God, I can't remember the guy's name who was lecturing at that. I will need to look that up. I will look that up on my phone right now. Crisis for Men and Boys Toronto lecturer, Dr. Warren Farrell. That's the guy's name I was trying to remember. Anyway, he's the one who gave this Crisis for Men and Boys lecture. Loads of feminists gathered outside. They hadn't even seen the lecture. Just like the people who took down or stopped the showing of the Red Pill in Melbourne, they hadn't seen the film. As with many feminists, they block things that they don't know what they are. They just want to quell free speech. They don't actually know the content of the thing they're trying to ban, which is stupid. Just really stupid. There was another guy there I have heard the name of before, Paul Elam, but I don't really know his stuff much. He was in there like as a major role as well. They gave lots of things like suicide rates for men. They talked about men going to war, and the obvious things about there are no rights that men have that women don't. How the wage gap is a myth. It's actually an earnings gap, and you can't actually pay women different from men because that would be illegal. Basically, the wage gap, I've said this before on one of my videos, the wage gap is an earnings gap. It comes about, the numbers come about because women aren't as likely as men to go into jobs like engineering, construction, being a garbage man, you know, these kinds of jobs. If they did, then there wouldn't be such a disparity between the earnings, but it's just kind of preference of job. What else do they go into? They when they brought Karen Strawn in, they touched on the Islam thing with Boko Haram. They kind of made that a climax in the movie. They showed all these articles, mainstream news, as it always is, misrepresenting figures and using language to hide things. Basically, Karen Strawn was saying that Boko Haram did enslave and capture lots of little girls in Africa, but they killed the men, and all the media outlets don't let you hear about that. What they do is they disguise the fact that it happened in the wording. They say like 112 people died, a certain amount of them were girls. And then they just continue the article like nothing had happened. Like, hold on, what? We're going to ignore what happened to the boys in this? Like, we're not going to focus on that? And a lot of the speakers were saying, well, this could only happen if men are treated as second-class citizens. Also, I should say, before I get on to the next bit, as well as having a climax moment of the Boko Haram stuff, there's like a shock moment, which is like Cassie is shown like male genital mutilation. I think it's called MGM. And you see lots in the media about FGM, the female genital mutilation, but MGM is kind of ignored. And she was shown this clip, which they actually show in the film, and it's really gory and horrible, but you know, it proves a point. That's why you have to see it. I'm not gonna say don't watch something shocking, because that's what I'm fighting against. You know, you should be made to watch things that you're shocked by or disagree with, or things in history that happened that involve killings and rapes, because they did happen and they make a point if they're shown. That's freedom of speech and non-censorship, and it's important. Anyway, they show this shocking clip. So right at the end of the movie, there was a Q&A. And the first thing the guy said when he got up, which was a kind of a faux pas, I don't know if he was pandering to people because he thought at first there might be feminists in the room, but he said, "Sorry if that was offensive. Sorry to anyone who found that offensive." Like, it was a little trigger warning he gave, and this one woman just went straight up to him like, "I don't think you should ever apologise for having something offensive." It was something along those lines, like you shouldn't be giving a trigger warning, because that is what's wrong with society. That's kind of part of the problem that we're experiencing now. And everyone kind of clapped her, like, and he was like, he kind of conceded, like, oh yeah, I know I shouldn't give trigger warnings. That's the point when he asked, are there any feminists in the room? And everyone just kind of looked at each other. I don't think it's because they were hiding that they were feminists. I think genuinely most people in the room weren't, which I was kind of surprised at, but there wasn't as big a turnout as I thought there'd be, which is a shame. But that's probably why there wasn't any feminists in the room. I reckon if you go to the London one on December 8th, you will probably get some feminists in the room. So there was a Q&A at the end. It wasn't with Cassie J. She's off in America, I think, doing things, but they had the guy from Families Need Fathers who organised the event, who actually said he had backgrounds being a lawyer and being an engineer. There was another dude who I think was a men's rights activist. Sorry, not activist. No, I hate those activists. A men's rights advocate, sorry. That's the meaning of the word MRA. I can't remember what particular foundation they said he was from or what particular group he was affiliated with. He was at the front, so they were like the little two-person panel, and the rest of us were kind of in close proximity. We didn't sit in a circle, but everyone could hear each other and everything. The session was only 30 minutes, but like the film sparked it, and it was really interesting. It was kind of the highlight of the night. It was kind of really exciting because I was just like looking around me going, it's been revealed to me like there's a small portion of at least one city that are revealing themselves to me, not exactly specifically as anti-SJWs, because a couple of people in the room didn't like labels, or MRAs, which are sort of separate from anti-SJWs. So I'm an anti-SJW, egalitarian. The film was mainly talking to MRAs like the honey badgers. I think most people in the room, I don't want to say identified as, most people in the room said they were non-feminists. And knowing that, just discovering I'd found a small portion of at least one city that were non-feminist was really exciting. Like, they exist, like, not just on the internet. In reality, there are small pockets here and there that are fighting the worthy cause against this malice that has overcome society. just everywhere, in the courts, in the schools, and basically because it's in the schools, teaching all new generations this thing. One girl in the Q&A said, I was a feminist, but then I decided not to be a feminist because it's been shoved down my throat so many times from all directions that it's just like too much. And I thought that was kind of admirable. That I thought it was kind of interesting as well that they're oversaturating people with their ideology. So even if they'd have played it right, if the feminists had played it right by spreading their ideology, they wouldn't have just drilled it into everyone like so intensely, because that automatically seems to, if going by what this young girl was saying, that automatically must stir up kind of revolt against the ideology. It's possible that what the feminists are doing right now is creating their own enemies because they're pushing too hard with their, I'd like to say brainwashing, but they themselves wouldn't call it brainwashing, of course, would they? They're pushing too hard with their teachings. So naturally, some kids are going to rebel and find the truth and get red-pilled, basically. So the name of the movie, Red Pill, as I say in the movie, but you can guess by the title, is a reference to the Matrix. Neo's offered the blue pill and the red pill, and the blue pill just means go back to your life, go back to what you've always known, go back to everything, but it's not real. Or take the red pill and see the Matrix, see what you've been, all these lies that you've been told through the years, and what the world is really like, and it's a lot harsher. Whereas if you take the blue pill, you stay how you've been living, and your life's a lot easier, but you're living a lie. The blue pill being the world of feminism and social justice that is now brainwashing everyone, and the red pill being actual equality. So many feminists still think that if you're not a feminist, then you've either misunderstood the definition of feminism, or you're automatically the opposite of feminism. You don't seek equal rights, like you want women to be in the kitchen, being the slave, cooking the meals, tending to the kids and all that, which isn't true. I myself kind of kept to myself in the corner of the room. I'm very introverted, so that's why I didn't contribute very much to the discussion. I really wanted to, and there were lots of things I agreed with. I think people could probably tell I was emoting to everything because I'm not very good at speaking up, so I'm an introvert. I'm the shy kid, so I wished the Q&A had gone on longer. Like if the Q&A had gone on like an hour and a half or something, and they wanted everyone to say just a little bit, then I'm sure I would have talked. It was rare for me to see non-feminists in public. Like, I sort of can't believe that I just witnessed that, because it's so widespread now. The point is, I'm very shy and not very good at revealing my views pre-feminism, and now that, third wave feminism has come along, I've shut myself up even more. So in public, to get me to join in a conversation or give you my personal opinions about something, you really have to coax me to talk. I mean, people could accuse me of playing a victim or living in a safe space by being afraid to talk, even amongst people who are supposedly non-feminists. As I say, if the Q&A was like an hour and a half and everyone in that room, there's like 25 people I think, got to pitch in with their own ideas, with the reminder that it's okay to disagree with each other, because there were some people in that room who, for the most part, I agreed with, but just slight things they said that were, slightly divergent from my vein of thinking. So, I mean, there's the woman who I almost completely agreed with until she said, "I don't like being labelled," and I thought, oh, okay. Because I think labels are useful. They help define things, they're helpful in language. I was quite surprised when recently Alison, the honey badger, said she didn't want to be defined as a honey badger anymore. And I thought, okay, but why would you do that? Like, everyone knows you for being a honey badger. Give yourself this kind of cartoon character to help you come across as a kind of definable icon to describe your ideas, like some people have cartoon avatars on YouTube to help explain themselves. Bearing vernaculars, although these people are now kind of self-doxing themselves, which is bound to happen eventually. I didn't go under a cartoon character, but I think even though I'm essentially self-doxed from the beginning, I could still create a cartoon avatar to represent myself, because I like that kind of way of explaining through semi-audio and having an icon of representation for yourself. Anyway, I am tangent hopping again. I'm going off topic. So Alison said she didn't want to be called a honey badger, so she rejected labels, and I was in the comments of that video with someone else saying, "Dude, why would you reject labels? Labels are good for defining concepts and things." Anyway, also that guy T and Jeff Holiday, the brilliant Jeff Holiday, who is an anti-SJW that you should all go and watch. He and that guy T don't like the concept of community, and a lot of people have been going with the flow with that, taking the ball and running with it, that we should hate the word community and we should never be self-defined as a community, and that again diverges from my train of thought. I think a community is a good thing. It's a group of like-minded individuals. It's not like a tribe, it's not like a cult, it's not like a faction or an organisation or an army or anything. I was I'm going to say this as a community that I definitely feel I was part of, the UT mapping community, the Unreal Tournament level design modding community. I am very much happy calling that a community. I'm also very happy, I would be very happy calling the anti-SJWs a community, but now I'm slightly afraid to say that. But I think, why not? It's like having a town or a village, except everyone knows each other and has at least one shared interest. And that's kind of how I feel about the anti-SJWs on YouTube. Like, I mean, we disagree with each other on loads of issues, but there's this one thing, a multifaceted thing. We deny feminism and social justice and all the kind of movements that go with it. And why can't that be a community? But apparently it's a dirty word in the eyes of many now, so I don't know. Should I give it up? You know, it's just language. So currently this film is doing the rounds around the world and it's got banned some places. Well, Cassie Jade planned a screening and then all the petitions and letters come into the organisers, the people in charge of that screen, and they take it down. And I signed a counter petition for the Melbourne one to get it rehosted somewhere, either in a different place in Melbourne or in Australia. Sydney, I think, maybe. The point is, lots of people don't want this film to be shown, and that's part of the method of social justice warriors, is banning free speech, taking out things just because you think they're misogynistic without actually hearing them out in the first place. So this film is on limited release around the world. I'm amazed they're trying to get it shown in Israel right now, which is fantastic. To get a film like this shown in a Middle Eastern country. Wouldn't it be amazing if they could get it shown in Saudi Arabia or something? You wouldn't be able to do it, would you? You wouldn't be able to do it. I mean, I already fear for Focus Break Habib's life, let alone, but they're trying to show it around the world, and it's really difficult to get it shown around the world and in good venues, because so many people are trying to block this. Because the establishment, the mainstream media, most people currently in the world are feminists and social justice warriors. They are the majority. I think if you get in touch with Cassie J and find a way to host a screening of this film in your particular town, in the UK or in America, or in places like Canada and Sweden especially, which are very hooked up in this stuff, that would probably be appreciated, I imagine, by the director and by all of us who really want the message to get out, and for people to start listening to alternative viewpoints like this and not censoring stuff and not just turning everything into hate speech without hearing it out. The world has undergone a collective U-turn in thought, and it's not good. We've got to find a way to turn it around. I was so happy to see this screening and see people in the audience that thought a different way. It would have been even better if we were having a debate in the room and there were feminists there too discussing it with us. If you can find a way to screen this film in your town, go to theredpillmovie.com and find the contact page or whatever and try and get in touch. Even if it's just like a little community hall, like a little town hall. If you know you can get a projector up and a laptop or a big screen TV, decent speakers this time, get a few seats around the hall, play this, it's about a 2-hour documentary I think, embrace debate and things. It would be great to help get the message out. What's happening right now is not equality, and there are other means to achieve equality than feminism. Embrace disagreement. Don't put trigger warnings in front of things. Don't be afraid of shocking things. Don't be afraid of your emotional response to things. Don't hate people for not thinking the same thing as you. try and get the red pill shown. If you can't try and get it shown, look at where the screenings are near you. Try and watch a screening of the red pill and stick around for the Q&A at the end.
You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes.